Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by Luna Display and Eero. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is my co-host, Federico Vitici. Hi, Federico.
Hey, John. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm recovering from Thanksgiving. I literally just drove like 4.5 hours, sat down in a chair, and almost immediately started recording this with you.
It's funny you mentioned that because for the first time, we also had our first Thanksgiving dinner in Italy. We invited 7 people to our house, so a total of 9 people plus 2 dogs. And we ate so much food. I wanted to die.
I know. You sent that picture. I was like, wow, there's a lot of food on that table.
So we tried to get a turkey because we have an American friend who lives here in Rome. And it was his wish to celebrate Thanksgiving the American way. We tried to get a turkey small enough for 9 people, but we couldn't find. The only turkey that we found was huge turkey. I'm pretty sure it couldn't even fit in my oven. So we had chicken this time as a good enough substitute in Italy for it's a turkey. Stuffed turkey is really not that common here. But next year,
I wouldn't think so.
Next year I'm gonna plan better. I'm gonna have a full traditional American Thanksgiving. But we had the sweet potatoes. We had corn and all the other things.
Stuffing, I think I saw.
Stuffing.
On your list.
We had stuffing, so it was close enough. Next year's gonna be perfect.
No, that's good. I can mail you a turkey next year. Actually, I don't think that'll work too well.
No,
it'll sit.
I don't want a turkey.
It'll sit in customs too long.
Oh my God! No, please don't do that. I don't want to die.
No. I was going to ask you about the chicken because you're very particular about your pizza, and I was going to give you a little bit of a hard time about your choice in fowl for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But I did think to myself, where would he find a turkey in Italy? I don't know. I mean, I didn't think that it was a common thing, really.
In full, full disclosure, I went to the bakery and I talked to the baker. I was like, "Look, do you have any supplier or any way to find me a turkey for Thanksgiving?" It was like, "Sure, I can do that," because he's my guy. He does everything.
Yeah.
And
he's a good guy.
He did find a turkey, but it was 15 kilograms. It was a huge
big.
animal.
That's really big.
And I was like,
that's
look,
huge.
We're 9 people. So while I'm going to keep it in mind that you can find me anything I want in the future.
Well, that's very good to know. I was sitting at my parents' house in Michigan looking at the list of things you're going to have for your Thanksgiving dinner. And Jennifer was looking over my shoulder and she said, "Just tell Federico we'll be over in 5 minutes." Because it looked like a great lineup of food.
Yeah, we had a great time. Yeah, but way too much food. So it was quite a night.
So I just got out of the car and I thought that maybe one thing we could talk about today is CarPlay, how we use iOS and apps in our cars, that sort of thing.
All right. Okay. So I would love to hear what you do with CarPlay and what you think about it, because I've always been jealous of your setup in that my car, despite being a fairly modern car, it's a 2016 Kia, does not support CarPlay. It is the model right before the 2017 Sportage added CarPlay integration.
All right.
This one does not support CarPlay. The only thing that gives me hope is I've been seeing some, for example, just this week or last week, we saw the news of certain Mazda models being retroactively updated with CarPlay support. So maybe someday Kia will do the same. You got to go to the dealership. You got to get it installed manually from their technicians. I would do that if possible. I also looked into installing like an aftermarket unit, replacing my Kia, built-in dashboard. But it looks like a lot of work, and I don't know anybody in Rome who I trust that can get this done for me. So I'm just going to wait until maybe someday there will be an update for old models. Otherwise, I'm just keen to hear what you think about it, because I'm really intrigued.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by our friends at Luna Display. Have you ever looked at your iPad and wished you could use it as a second display for your Mac? Well, with Luna Display, you can do just that. And it makes total sense, right? Your iPad has a gorgeous display, and you can always use extra space when you're working on your Mac. Luna Display provides crystal clear image quality, reliable performance, and wireless flexibility. You just pop in a little piece of hardware into your Mac, install the app on the iPad and the Mac, and you're good to go. And if you don't have access to Wi-Fi, there's no problem. You can always connect via USB. The brilliant thing about Luna Display is that you can set up your workspace anywhere you want, whether that's in your office or on your couch. And you get more screen real estate without the expense of buying a second display for your Mac. Luna Display also acts as a complete extension of your Mac. It supports external keyboards, your Apple Pencil, and touch interactions, so you can work on your Mac with the swipe of a finger. Since getting my new iPad Pro, I've fallen in love with Luna Display all over again. The Pro's 12.9-inch screen is the perfect pairing with the Luna Display because it provides plenty of room to navigate your Mac's interface. The performance is amazing too. Even when I use my Luna Display on my slower 9.7-inch iPad, it performs like a champ. It really feels like magic every time I connect. Listeners of App Stories can get a 10% discount on Luna Display. Just go to lunadisplay.com and enter the promo code AppStories at checkout. That's lunadisplay.com and the promo code AppStories at checkout. We'll have a link in the show notes too. Our thanks to Luna Display for supporting App Stories. Yeah, well, I like CarPlay a lot. The things that it suffers from tend to be problems with the car itself. So I have a Honda. It's a 2016 Accord, and it has its in-dash display, and you can get into CarPlay from that. It has its own apps and other stuff there, like you can access various controls in the car from there. But I'm almost always in CarPlay. The thing is that I don't know what kind of chips this entertainment system runs on, but they're so slow. I mean, I start the car, back out of the driveway, drive a couple blocks, and then it's ready to go. And it's not a big deal, but it can be kind of a big deal if it for some reason it's not working right. And it's like, well, you can only fiddle around with it so much while you're driving along and be safe. So then you have to pull off to the side. And I had an issue like that on the way back today, which I'll get to. But it runs on the car's hardware. And so what Apple has done, I think, has essentially designed CarPlay to work with the lowest common denominator, whatever the worst possible automobile entertainment system is. And that means what they do is, CarPlay is not itself like software. It's like essentially your phone is broadcasting images of what's on your phone in a slightly different format because it has to lay out for a rectangular display in a car. But that's not software running on the car. It's software running on your phone that's projecting the images and then, of course, laying out the touch targets so that you can hit the chunky buttons and play stuff. I wrote about this on the site, I guess, after I'd had it about 6 months. And I don't think my use of it has changed all that much. The things that I use the most are Overcast for listening to podcasts, Messages for listening to my text messages. I love that Siri always says Federico Vitixi.
Yeah.
Which is, I know you know about that.
I don't know why. I try to teach Siri how to pronounce my name. It doesn't want to learn. So, yeah.
Why a C would sound like an X makes no sense to me. But it is really great for listening to your text messages because what it does, it doesn't display the text on the screen or anything. It just reads them to you. And one of the things that's difficult with messages is that if someone sends you a URL, it's really hard to know what it is, especially if it's like a Twitter URL or something like that, because it just reads the URL. So that's a limitation. It's always kind of humorous to hear it read out the emoji because it reads the official name of the emoji. So you'll listen to like a conversation of 2 or 3 messages. Yeah. So it'll be like Federico Vitixi says, upside down smiley face, something like that. It's kind of funny. So those are limitations, but if it's just regular text, it's fine. And of course it doesn't display images or anything either. I think it says so-and-so sent you an image.
Okay.
Right.
So it doesn't bring up any element on the screen just to show. Okay.
Yeah, none whatsoever. It's entirely a Siri type of interface. There's a couple of buttons, like you can hit a cancel button to kind of back out of it to go back to whatever you're already on. And there's like a respond button. But you can do all that stuff by voice too, because it'll say, "Do you want to respond to Federico Vitixi?" And you say yes, and then it just walks you through the steps of dictating your message and sending it. And it works really well. I mean, it works as well as Siri does on the phone. It's the same thing, really. But I think when I started using messages in the car with Siri was when I started using Siri more again, after it wasn't so great early days, because it felt more useful in the car, because even when it wasn't behaving perfectly, it was so convenient to be able to hit a button on my steering wheel, because I have a Siri button there, and dictate a message to somebody like, I'll be home in 5 minutes or something like that, that it made Siri feel a lot more powerful, even if it was somewhat wasn't working 100% perfectly. So I use that a lot. So that, Overcast, music, those are kind of the big ones. Also maps, of course. Today I was driving back, and it's Apple Maps. It's not perfect. I went through a part of the highway that said, in 1 mile there's a lane closure. And sure enough, as I got there was construction, but because it's the Thanksgiving holiday, they'd kind of cleared the construction and the lanes were all open. So it wasn't quite accurate, but it does do things like that, as well as just, giving you directions to get there. And today, because I was trying to get here in time to record, it was nice to be able to see on Apple Maps that I had plenty of leeway in case there was traffic.
So let me ask you this about the messaging feature. So what happens when you receive a link? Does Siri try to read the title of the web page, or does it just says you sent you a link?
It just says, it reads the URL basically.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
come
which is
on.
no good for things like Twitter links, which you and I send to each other pretty frequently. So I'll know that's just something you got to look at later. There's nothing you can do about it, really.
Yeah, I mean, especially because Messages on iOS has the ability to preview the title
Right.
of the web page. You could just use the same technique because it's really coming from your phone. So you could just say, send you a link to a web page with the title such and such. It would be more useful, I think.
Yeah, you can get it. You can sometimes, certain things like Twitter links are not very good, but some web pages you can get a better idea of what it is somebody sent you. But you can't really get any kind of real sense, because since you can't really read what's on the other end of the link anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
Overcast has some bugs. I have learned to work my way around those in the car.
Like what?
Sometimes going into a playlist and tapping on an episode won't open the episode. Usually I've been listening to something when I get in the car, and so it just picks up if it's the last used audio app. So I've gotten into the habit, like if I'm leaving the house, I'll just open up Overcast so that it's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have, or I'm sitting in the car and I hit play and let it start playing over the iPhone speakers first before the system takes over. Because if I start playing something and I start the car, and eventually the entertainment system fully boots up, then it'll just switch from playing over the speakers of the iPhone to playing in the car. So that's a lot of times what I do, because it does take a few blocks anyway. So if I want to start listening right away, that's what I would do anyhow. So there are a couple of bugs there, but for the most part, I've found ways to work around them, which aren't too bad.
So let me ask you this: if you were to do a full comparison between Apple Maps, Waze, and Google Maps on CarPlay, would you still go with Apple Maps because of the integration with the system and Siri and all of that?
Yep, that's exactly what I do. I mean, I like, of the two, I like Waze better than Google Maps.
Really?
Yeah, I just like the way the UI is laid out a little better, and I do like all the the crowdsourced information you get. I mean, the very first
Right.
time I tried it, I was driving around town and I got a notification said, in 400 meters there's an object in the road. And sure enough, there was like a piece of wood in the middle of the
Oh wow. Okay.
in the middle of the street, and that was, I mean, it was, it was just like some local suburban street. It wasn't like a highway thing or anything. So I was kind of impressed that it had that. But the thing is, with Apple Maps, all I have to do is, press the Siri button on my steering wheel and say directions to wherever, and it does a really good job of just finding that. And you press go, and it gives you the directions. With Waze and with Google Maps, you can dictate a destination, but there's a microphone button on the screen, which is just it's just inconvenient enough that I usually stick with Apple Maps, because I mean, I know Apple Maps isn't great everywhere, but it's fine in the Chicago area for the most part. So I don't really have a reason to switch to the others.
So what's your overall? I think you're happy with CarPlay, even though you sort of learn to understand and live with its limitations. Do you think that that's correct? You like it? It's got issues, but you can work around those.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And when I have problems, it's not always easy to tell where the problems lie, but for the most part it's with the car's hardware, I think, because for instance today we were getting ready to leave, started up the car, and it displays like a loading screen as it's firing up CarPlay, and it got stuck. It just it wouldn't get all the way into CarPlay, and I couldn't do anything. And the only way to fix that is to stop the car and turn off the engine. That's how you reboot the system, the entertainment system, basically, as far as I'm aware, is to turn off your car. And that's not really convenient when you've started down the road. That's really frustrating. That doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And like I said, it's a little bit slow to get started all the time. But of all the car systems I've used, it is convenient and it's familiar because it's very much like dealing with iOS, and it's got all the stuff that I already want because it's all on my phone downloaded anyway, whether that's music and playlists or podcasts or whatever. So it's great to have, and I like that my phone, to the extent it's being upgraded with new apps and new functionality, displays on the car without me having to do anything with my car. I don't have to do a firmware update on my car, or I don't have to go buy a new car or install a new system in my dashboard. It's all upgraded along with the phone. So I think that there's a lot to be said for that. And I at this point, I don't think I would buy another car that doesn't have CarPlay in it. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Eero. What's cool about Eero is that you can build a Wi-Fi system that's perfectly tailored to your home. We live in a high bandwidth world full of connected devices, and you need a distributed system in your home to make sure that you get the best speeds available for all of them. With Eero, you can install an enterprise-grade Wi-Fi system in your home in just a few minutes. It all starts with the second-generation Eero device. It has 3 5 gigahertz radios, which allows for increased speed and range. It sits flat on any surface, too, and connects over either Ethernet or wirelessly. Then you can easily expand coverage throughout your whole home by adding Eero beacons. These are small devices that plug directly into your wall, allowing you to reach every single corner of your home. And Eero is introducing Eero Plus, taking the utility of Eero further than ever before by providing simple, reliable security to help you defend all the devices on your network against malware, phishing, and unsuitable content. Eero Plus can automatically tag sites that contain violent, illegal, or adult content, so you'll have powerful parental controls at your fingertips. It includes ad blocking functionality too, to help you improve load times for websites that are full of privacy-invading ad tracking. And it's also possible to have Eero Plus check sites you visit against a database of millions of threats to prevent you from visiting anything malicious. Eero Plus even includes subscriptions to Encrypt.me for VPN protection, 1Password for password management, and Malwarebytes for antivirus solutions. I've used both the first generation and second generation Eeros, and if you're still using the older model and wondering if it's worth upgrading, it absolutely is. My first generation Eeros were terrific, but the latest models take things to a whole nother level. Setup is incredibly simple, and the range absolutely surprised me. Just one base station and a couple of beacons, and my whole home was covered with incredibly fast internet. Never think about Wi-Fi again. Get $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacon package and 1 year of Eero Plus. Just go to eero.com/appstories and at checkout use the promo code AppStories. Again, that's $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacon package plus a whole year of Eero Plus. Just go to eero.com/appstories and use the code AppStories at checkout. Our thanks to Eero for their support of the show. All right, Federico, I know that you don't have CarPlay in your car, but you have been using iOS in various ways, and I know that Do Not Disturb is something that you use when you're driving around.
I wanted to mention Do Not Disturb while driving because I think it's one of those features of iOS that you either hate it or love it. And I wanted to bring it up because I was recently setting up a new iPhone for Sylvia's mom, and it's one of those features, Do Not Disturb while driving, that I think it's enabled by default. And so I got a text a few days later saying, "Hey, can I disable this thing whenever I drive, that I don't get any calls and I don't get any messages?" And so I did some more research just to confirm how the feature worked. Do Not Disturb while driving can be activated in 3 different ways. You can set it to automatically automatically enabled as soon as iOS detects that you're in a car, or
Right.
it can be enabled also automatically when you connect to car Bluetooth. So if you have a Bluetooth in your car and the iPhone can be connected to that device, Do Not Disturb while driving can be automatically engaged. Or also you can just enable it manually. So you can decide when you don't want to be disturbed while driving, and you can add a control center toggle to do this. And in the case of Silvia's mom, she doesn't have car Bluetooth, but her iPhone was falling back to the automatic option, which detects when you're possibly in a car because you're going too fast for walking or running, or too slow for being on a train, essentially, and it activates that setting. You can also, when you enable Do Not Disturb while driving, you can set up an auto reply, which I think is the same auto reply that applies to any other instance of Do Not Disturb. And this auto reply can be sent to no one, to your recent contacts, to your favorites, or to all contacts. And you can choose these settings, you can choose these options, and you can choose the auto reply text in settings Do Not Disturb on your iOS device. Unfortunately, if you're like me and you talk to people in multiple languages on your phone, you cannot set up multiple auto replies in different languages.
Sure.
I would love to do this, and I would love to have an Italian text for my mom or folks who have an Italian address in my contact list, and English text for everybody else. But like many other features of iOS, multiple languages are not extremely well supported here.
Yeah, that feels like something that really should be supported, because it is using your contacts, and if you have an address for a person, that's a pretty good indicator of what language you'd want to use.
Yeah, I mean, or even you just add a new parameter of the contact card. Even if I don't want to add an address, just let me say the primary language of this person is Italian or English.
Right.
And, depending on your texting, iOS is going to respect that setting. Anyway, I had Do Not Disturb while driving enabled for a while through car Bluetooth. So that worked well, because as soon as my iPhone connected to my car, the setting was activated by iOS, and that was great. I disabled it a few months ago, not because I look at my phone while I'm driving. I follow the law pretty much to the letter when it comes to driving, except for sometimes speed. But you gotta get used to Rome traffic, and that's just the reality of living in Rome.
Yes.
But I mean, I of course always wearing seatbelts, never looking at the phone, and all of that. And I use Siri as much as possible so I can keep my eyes on the road. But I dislike being inundated with this long list of notifications as soon as I walk out of my car.
Right.
If I want to know if something important happens, I'm usually driving. There's my girlfriend next to me, so I can get Sylvia to check on my phone for me and tell me what's up. Like if something is wrong with the website, or if you need assistance with something, or if Ryan needs to know something urgent, I want to be able to know while I'm driving, but not because I'm looking, because my girlfriend is looking at my phone. So incidentally, that's also why I disabled Face ID for notification previews. So I got nothing to hide, so she can look at my phone, she can see my notifications. I figured that, because there have been a couple of occasions where I had Do Not Disturb while driving and something happened, like the site was down, or, Apple announced something and I didn't know because I was driving, and realized,
Right.
while I understand that this is a powerful option to offer to people and it's important and nobody should ever look at their phone, I'm in the unique situation where my girlfriend can look at my phone, because we usually drive around together. So it's good enough for me.
Yeah, you've got a co-pilot, which is good.
I got a co-pilot, that's right.
I would note that I turned this off fairly quickly when it was introduced, only because at the time I was still commuting to downtown Chicago, and when I had the automatic set, it was still detecting me riding on the train as me being in a car, which when you're on a train, that's the perfect time to actually be looking at your phone, because you're not the one driving. So I turned that off. And if you're using CarPlay, you're not connected by Bluetooth. So, then it's just a matter of doing it manually after that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have it turned on right now, but I am not someone who looks at my phone. And since I have CarPlay, I can have, that if you need to get hold of me when I'm driving, that you'll text me, because that's one thing that's a limitation of CarPlay, is that you can't get things like Slack messages, right?
Yeah.
really the only thing is a phone call or texting at this point. Although I know like AirMail can do messaging through it, and I've tested that, but I haven't really used that in any meaningful way. All right, so what else, Federico? I know you've been testing some dongles and other things. Tell us about your dongles.
I need to mention the dongle again, the powerful MPOW car Bluetooth adapter. So this is a little dongle that has a headphone jack that you plug into your aux port in your car if you have one. And what it does is it basically fakes being Bluetooth headphones. So on your iOS device, on your iPhone, if you open the Bluetooth settings screen, you're going to see the MPOW adapter show up as a pair of headphones. And also if you use the Apple Watch, you're going to see this device appear as Bluetooth headphones. But for the car, this basically just a transmitter. It takes audio and puts it back into the car system via the headphone jack. That's all it does. And I was interested in getting this adapter for a very specific reason. I've been increasingly going out without my iPhone, just having the Apple Watch, because with the Series 4, the cellular option became available in Italy, and I've been really happy with it because it allows me to go out when I need to go to the dog park or I just want to spend some time with Sylvia. I don't need to look at my phone. But I still get notifications and I can still respond and I can still send messages. But I noticed that in going out without my iPhone, I was losing the ability to put on music in the car or to have phone calls in the car. So I thought, well, maybe Apple has thought of this. And of course, there's going to be an option in settings to connect to my car Bluetooth. But turns out that the Apple Watch, for some reason, even though the Apple Watch has everything, the cellular version of the watch has my contacts, has my phone numbers, has my, all my music, all of that, it cannot connect to my car. So I asked on Twitter and I asked on the podcasts, and somebody very helpfully came back to me with this recommendation of this device that works amazingly well. It looks like a cheap piece of plastic, but it really gets its job done, and it costs $16 on Amazon. So what you can do is there's an on-off switch. You plug it into your car via the headphone jack and you turn it on. And at least in my Kia, as soon as I turn it on, the dashboard switches to the aux input because it thinks that something is connected. Then on your watch, you just need to go into the Bluetooth, into settings Bluetooth. You're going to see the device. If you tap on the AirPlay menu, also, you're going to see these quote-unquote headphones being available. You connect to the device, and then it's just like if your Apple Watch was paired with AirPods or with Beats headphones. Every system, every song, of course, system audio, phone calls, and even Siri goes directly to the adapter. So this means I can open the music app on my watch, and I can tap on a playlist. I can stream Apple Music via cellular, and it'll play from my watch through the car's stereo system. Of course, being Bluetooth, there's going to be a slight delay in using Siri. So when I tap and hold on the digital crown to bring up Siri, there's like a 1 second delay before I can start talking. But in my experience, this delay is not as bad as the delay that I see when I try to use my iPhone in car Bluetooth mode and invoke Siri. That's more like a 3 to 4 second delay. And I don't understand why. It's unusable with my iPhone.
Well, you know what, and it probably comes maybe down to the car manufacturer. Again, I know we have a second car and it does all sorts of weird stuff with Bluetooth. It's almost unusable with my phone and using Bluetooth. Let me ask you this about the MPOW. How is it powered? Does it have batteries?
It's got a battery and you got to recharge it every once in a while. Yeah, comes with is it micro USB? I think it's the more common one.
The little skinny one?
Skinny one. Yeah, but there's a cable in the box, and you can just, if you want, you can leave the cable. If you have like one of those power things. What's the name? Like the light.
Used to be a cigarette lighter.
used to be a cigarette lighter, but now I use it with I have a Belkin USB-C power adapter for that.
Oh,
yeah,
you
I
do?
I bought it last year I think it's available on the Apple Online store. Actually, it supports fast charging, so I can fast charge my iPhone and iPad Pro via USB-C in my car. It's crazy, but you gotta check what kind of output your
Right.
lighter has.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they're still making cigarette lighters for cars. It
Cigarette
doesn't make any
lighters.
sense.
No, because they've all turned into power adapters. I mean, I think a lot of car companies call them power
Yeah.
adapters now. All right. So, I'll tell you just a total throwback option for listening to things in your car is what I used to do before I had CarPlay, which is I just turned the volume up really loud on my iPhone and put it in a
Yeah.
cup holder and it would reflect the sound up. Or I would sometimes even put it on the dashboard and have it bounce off the windshield towards me. The speakers were a lot less powerful, maybe 3-4 years ago. And so it was hard to hear sometimes if you're on a highway going really fast and there was a lot of background noise. It's a lot easier now with the current generation of iPhones. I mean, sometimes when I don't want to deal with CarPlay, all I do is just turn the volume up and drop it in the cup holder between me and the passenger seat and listen that way.
That's a good hack, and I used to do the same at the beach, for example. Like if you have a large plastic glass, you can use it as a fake speaker for your phone. Just put the phone in and use reflection to have louder volume. Yeah.
Yep, it works pretty well.
So I have two more things I wanted to mention about audio in the car. My car has a USB port, so I can connect a USB to Lightning cable or a USB-C cable with my iPad Pro. And if iOS supports, I think it's called the iPod mode for some cars that supports this legacy mode. You're basically gonna be able to control your music library via USB directly from your car's interface. And also, I've been building this shortcut that runs a shortcut in the Shortcuts app whenever I turn my car on. And you may be wondering, how's that possible? So I bought this iBeacon. It's a tiny USB. I'm going to send you the link, John. It's a tiny USB, super tiny dongle that you plug into the USB port of your car. And it starts transmitting an iBeacon signal via Bluetooth. So it's you gotta be in very close proximity of the beacon to get a signal. And the reason why I bought it is because Launch Center Pro, and I think also Launcher, but I've been testing the new version of Launch Center Pro coming, so that's the one I'm going to mention in this example. It supports using iBeacons as triggers. So my idea was I want to be able to walk into my car, and the beacon, the USB thing is always plugged in, and it doesn't consume any power because the car is turned off. So I can leave it plugged in at all times.
Right.
When I turn my car on, the beacon gets power, turns on, starts transmitting the signal in like 1 second. So in my tests, as soon as I turn the car on, Launch Center Pro sends me a notification because you gotta tap on a notification to use as a trigger.
Right.
That says your iBeacon is on. Now you can launch your action. When you tap the notification, the action that I made launches the shortcut that I created. And the shortcut was meant to offer me options. Like, do you want to listen to Overcast? Or do you want to shuffle this playlist from Apple Music? Or do you want to call your girlfriend? Or do you want to play another playlist? So multiple options for playback. My idea was I want to be able to walk into the car, turn it on, tap a notification, choose what I want to listen to or somebody to call. My problem is that I was running into some bugs with shortcuts a while back that basically my phone was connecting to car Bluetooth at the same time. And so the ability to, like, the audio was doing weird things. Like it was starting to play audio immediately because there's, the iPhone, when you connect to car Bluetooth, it resumes the last activity. Like music or podcasts, and I hate that, and I wish there was a setting to disable that, but it was getting in the way of my shortcut. And also another thing that I noticed, and this is a weird bug, but the turn Bluetooth off action didn't work unless my phone was on Wi-Fi. So if I was on cellular, that Bluetooth action was not working. So I need to test this setup again with Shortcuts 2.1.1 or the beta of Shortcuts 2.1.2. But if I can get it to work, I will write it up eventually. So this idea of I walk into the car, I can run a shortcut. That's a powerful one because I want to there's a bunch of things that I always do whenever I'm in my car, either some playlists that I listen to or some specific podcasts that I want to play. And my idea was I could basically display a prompt that lets me choose between multiple options. And also I could integrate with native shortcuts for Overcast or for Apple Music and do a bunch of interesting things.
Right.
But there's some bugs that I need to figure out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And the thing that would be great too is if shortcuts at some point can be run in the background, so you wouldn't have to tap that notification, right? You wouldn't have to tap that notification for Launch Center Pro, but that's that's the best we have right now, and it's not that inconvenient. I mean, the notification drops down, you tap it, and you go. But those Bluetooth bugs sound a little hairy at the moment, a little hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but I need to check it out again. By the way, it's called the iBeacon C3 Mini USB Bluetooth LE 4.0 programmable beacon. So.
All right. Well, that one just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't
I know.
it?
I'm going to send you the link so we can include it in the show notes.
Yes. Please do, because I won't find that again. You sent me a picture of it not too long ago, and it is really tiny.
Small.
It's if you can get this working, I think I'll be purchasing one of those too, and giving it a try.
I will
myself.
let you know.
All right, very good. Well, Federico, I think that's probably a good place to stop. I want to thank our sponsors again, Lunar Display and Eero, for making the show possible. And you can always find me and Federico over at macstories.net. Federico is on Twitter. He's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees, JOHN VOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.